Hey Zach, how are you?
Yeah, good seeing it. Nice to meet you.
It's so good to have you on the podcast, and I think I do owe it to the audience to tell them how I came across you, and it's a very different approach. Like I get so many people messaging me on LinkedIn, on Instagram. Some of them even find my email from God knows where because it's not anywhere on LinkedIn or anything. I don't know how they find it, but anyway, they like to ask to be on the podcast, and like a lot of the times I say no because they're just not the right fit. I was on TikTok the other day. I came across like what you've done, how you raise money, and how you're raising money right now. And I was like, I need to get this guy on the podcast. So that's like, I guess I've built it up massively for you guys at home listening, like wherever you are. But yeah, I'm massively excited to talk to you right now, Zach.
No, I appreciate it. Yeah, that's really cool. I always find it amazing how things like that work, like how you came across the video and kind of stumbled across it. But I really appreciate you inviting me on here. Real privilege to be on here. So thank you.
Mm. I think like probably the best way to start this, because I know people are like dying to know what it is that caught my attention in the first place. I think what would be the best things to talk about is, I guess, like a bit of background on yourself,
Yeah,
and also what is CareerPass, your business.
yeah, sure. So I am 33 years old now, which is terrifying to think. Uh, that I'm kind of coming up to mid 30s, but I started what is now Career Pass straight after I left university. So a good decade ago. Um, had a couple of years kind of in the wilderness post university, and there's a whole story around how I ended up starting the business. And I had like a corporate job lined up with Accenture, working in London. I studied theology at university. I went to Durham, wrote my dissertation on the meaning of life, which got a 40% overall. That dragged me down to a 2-2. Accenture rescinded the job offer. I had already spent kind of the golden handshake, golden hello, which was kind of like the welcome bonus that they give you. So suddenly, after I graduated, I was quite heavily in debt and didn't have a job lined up. So
Wow.
Career Pass was, I guess, like me trying to find my way in the world after having quite a pretty well thought out life plan. Like at least into my 20s anyway, like moving down to London. I think we had like a house we'd found in Clapham, like just kind of that usual kind of thing. And yeah, so ended up back at home, no job, kind of in debt as you would expect. And
I
yeah,
did not know that
started
about
off.
you. That's crazy.
No, it was a very humbling experience, to be honest, because I've uh, I've not always done the best academically. So I've done okay, but I kind of got into Durham um, with a lot of help, and it was kind of felt really lucky and kind of privileged to be there. And then yeah, again didn't get the grades and thought, oh, it's okay. I can just blag my way into a job, and it didn't happen. It didn't happen at all at that point, which is great. Um, so I originally set up a business called Grad Touch, which was a jobs board designed to help graduates get a job after university. And that kind of over the last decade has morphed. We've changed our strategy. We've acquired 5 businesses so far, and that's kind of how we as an organization are growing now as CareerPass and what the funding is being used for. We're using it to acquire other businesses. Um, and yeah, we've it's CareerPass is a collection of businesses in the what we call the early careers space. So essentially, working with universities to help get students ready for the world of work, and then we've got a couple of different platforms. Probably our largest platform is graduatejobs.com, which is a graduate jobs board. Um, and yeah, that's kind of the business in a nutshell.
That's very cool. That's very. I did not know that about you before with the job offer at Accenture, and I guess like let's dive into that very quickly. How did you kind of like what were you going through mentally at that point? Because it must be really difficult. Like because
Oh,
when
it
you
was
finish university, like people were like, you have to have your life together at that point, like pretty much. And it's like you did it, and
yeah,
like everything kind of fell through.
I kind of got myself into Durham. Don't still to this day. That's I mean, there's a whole story behind how I managed to get in, and I'll tell you that another day because I could be here talking about that for hours. Um, but it felt like a real like it was a real privilege to be there, and everyone there really just had their. Well, I felt like everyone had their stuff to get like had their life together. Like they knew what they were going to do.
Mm.
They'd come to university knowing what jobs they wanted to walk into afterwards, and that wasn't the background I had come from. Like I felt completely kind of uh, not quite kind of fish out of water, but I felt very, very. I don't know. It was hard to kind of it's a real tricky period, and I think I went in not with a huge amount of confidence going into university, and then when I managed to get this job, that was kind of like a real key stepping stone to what I wanted to do and who I wanted to become. And I'd always been pretty, I guess, like entrepreneurial. So I'd ran a couple of businesses before I'd started university. Like I think everyone, well, not everyone, but a lot of my entrepreneurial friends have ran a t-shirt business. That was like the first thing I did.
Yeah.
After that, I got this is bearing in mind this was like 2006. So like still the internet was still relatively new. I'd set up a couple of websites like proxy servers. So it didn't have the internet on phone at that point. But in every school there was like in every classroom there was a computer on the internet, and you couldn't go on any websites because like you just get blocked. Like you just couldn't get like all the. So yeah, made a couple of proxy servers, which at one point were getting over 1 million unique visitors a day.
Wow. In
Which was
2006.
2006. Yeah. So I think that nearly got me excluded from school because I at that point didn't know about removing your privacy details from like on the Whois database. So it was very quickly found out that it was Zac Williams who had set up these servers, and yes, that was that was fun. But yeah, I'd ran like nightclub events at uni as well.
So
Which was my
when
way.
did you start? When did you start Career Pass?
CareerPass was 2013, so like 2 3 years after I'd graduated. So I kind of started, and it was called Grad Touch back then. Before we started acquiring other businesses. But that was about 2013 was when we kind of incorporated the company and went serious. So like like 9 years ago. I'd messed around a little bit before then, but it kind of took. It's been like a 9 year journey, which is.
And when did you
Mad.
just start to decide to actually start raising some money for it?
It was. I'd never thought about raising money, and then this is why I think there's a lot of luck in life and why I feel really lucky and appreciative to even come on and kind of talk about the journey is the first person who ever wrote a check into our business found out about me by reading an article. I'd gotten into the Sunday Telegraph, and the only reason I got into the Sunday Telegraph was because my friend from university was doing like an internship and they had a gap like in the business section, and they were putting like young entrepreneurs in it, and he was like, do you want to be in it? I was like, I mean, yeah, sure, why not? So my first investor was flying back from a business trip in India and was reading the Sunday Telegraph, and landed in London, picked up the phone and gave me a call immediately and said, are you thinking of raising some investment? And we were like, sorry, is this a scam? Like, who are you? Like, this extremely well-educated, well-spoken investor was calling us out of the blue, saying, let's talk about an investment. And you were like, we were just kind of, who is this guy? So it was that's when we took on the first money. So that's why I took say it was kind of lucky. Like, well, I hadn't even thought about raising money. I didn't even know what it was. Like, I knew I'd started this business with an idea of kind of a problem that I wanted to fix, and I was hugely naive, hugely kind of arrogant as well, and I lacked humility and just thought I could walk in and just solve all of the world's problems with a website, which was a terrible website. It didn't really function very well back in the day.
Mm.
And then this guy called me out of the blue and said, "Are you thinking of raising some money?" And we went to meet him a few weeks later, down in London. So I'm based in Manchester, and that's when our first investor started telling me about kind of investing and
Wow.
angels and seed rounds, and yeah, that's, I mean, hugely lucky. I think
Yeah.
there's a massive amount of luck in kind of running a business, and that was definitely my first break. Was being page filler in the Sunday Telegraph, and that being the lead that
That
we
was a very
needed.
cool
So,
story. That's a very
yeah,
cool story. I would love to ask about, I guess, like, because before we hit record, you were telling me about, like, I guess, like, different ways that you raise money. And the reason why I wanted to get you on the podcast is because, so you raise money through a novel way that we'll get onto right now. But I guess, like, what it paints a picture of as a whole is, like, you can raise money through different ways. You can raise money through,
yeah,
like,
yeah,
different
yeah,
ways to what they teach you in, I guess, the traditional avenues.
yeah.
So I guess, when did Cameo come? Actually, before we jump into that, what is Cameo, and, like, where did the idea come from to start using that
Yeah.
as a promotional tool?
So,
Because people might not know
I,
what Cameo is.
no, yeah. So Cameo is a platform which you can pay celebrities to kind of video record a message for you, and you can send that message to whoever you want. And when I didn't have a huge network when we were first starting to raise investment. So a bit of context. We took on some, and like the whole investment world has definitely changed since we took on our first seed investment. But we took that on in 2014. We took on 105 grand, and that seemed like life changing money at that point. And that came via the investor who found out about us on the plane
Yeah,
and
yeah,
introduced us to a few people. And then we kind of raised some money locally in and around Manchester a couple of years later, but we didn't really follow a traditional like pre-seed, seed, Series A like kind of tranches. And when we went out in 2019 to start raising some kind of what I would class as like serious money, so 7-figure rounds, I had no idea like who we were going to reach out to, or I didn't really have a network of people that I could hadn't been great at building relationships with
yeah.
people.
That's like
So
VC money, right? Like, that
yeah,
level.
VC
That level
money.
is like VC money. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I'd had some like the year before and a couple of years before, I'd had some really bad VC experiences where some of them paid off through various different ways, but I'd spent a lot of time coming down from Manchester to London and just getting like rejected day after
Mm,
day. It was quite a definitely like a humbling experience going through that as well. So this time I kind of thought this is our strategy. This is how we're trying to grow. We're quite unique in the fact that we are buying and acquiring businesses. So we have it's a bit of a trend at the moment, but you've got like the Amazon FBA aggregators who
hmm
kind of like Thrasio, and there's Heroes in London. So like buy and build acquisitions kind of has become quite a VC trend over the last year and a half. But when we started down this path, like it wasn't like a VC hot topic kind of thing. So I found a list of the people that I thought I would want to speak to. So I found them on Crunchbase.
hmm
Which is a really useful tool, just digging into like which investors have invested into which companies and building out a list from there. I then got their email addresses because it's really hard to reach out to those people as well. I got their email addresses and mobile numbers in some cases using Rocket Reach, which is like I don't know what you'd call it, like a business CRM. So it has loads of people's contacts in there, which is really like all my details are in there, and I didn't put them in, so they're doing a good job. And then we use Cameo to basically get musicians, actors, film stars, whatever it was, who the investors I knew were fans of them. So I did
mm,
like kind of hacked my way around it. So I found the list of investors, found them on Twitter because obviously all these investors have a Twitter profile as well, because that's where VC Twitter and all that. found the people on there, did an advanced search for like TV shows or the word actor or film or what, or like sports team, and basically against my like Excel sheet of investors I wanted to speak to, I found like two or three things which they liked or loved. So like this is a film they've seen recently, or this is a TV show they watch, or this is the football team that they support.
Hmm.
And then I went on Cameo and I found actors, musicians, sports stars who were, you know, either in those TV shows or part of their favorite football team. So, you know, I found one investor was a big Arsenal fan. So we got Merson on there. One was a PSG fan. So we got Marquinhos. I can never say his full name, but like PSG's captain.
Yeah, Marquinhos, yeah.
Marquinhos, yeah. So that's my terrible pronunciation. Who else? Like, so that was kind of that was a tricky bit, which was finding people who were kind of, I guess they liked, loved, whatever it was, and
Mm.
all that was an icebreaker. So that was then kind of a tactic I used in the emails, because I think the emails are all about getting someone's attention. So it was like, you know, the emails were basically like, "Hey, investor, here's a message from your favorite footballer saying why you should speak to me." So like I got like uh, some of the videos were pretty long. So Gina Torres, who is Jessica Pearson in Suits, she did like a really good minute and a half where she basically just was talking to this guy saying, Zac's a really cool guy. I heard he saved a cat from a burning building at one point. I think you should just speak to him. So some like hyped me up. Others were like birthday messages. So like, you know, I got them saying, "Hey, I knew it was your birthday a month ago. Here's some guy saying happy birthday." And essentially, all it was an icebreaker, because I'd never spoken to these people before. They probably hadn't have heard of me. Or definitely hadn't heard of me. So it was just a way of like getting them to read their emails and getting them to like engage meaningfully.
Yeah.
And I think the reason why so many of them then had meetings was because of the deck and the business which was behind that. So kind of there's one thing reaching out to people cold with like some sort of gimmick. There's kind of, I think the other point is having something that they'd be interested in finding out more about. But that was the plan, really. It was using Cameo, getting you know, I had like the Joe Biden guy, you know, he's like, "Joe Biden, baby, what's up?" Like bing bong, like got
Yeah.
him. That was a really bad impression. Got Jay from the Inbetweeners.
Yeah, I saw that one.
Got,
That's the one from
yeah,
TikTok. Yeah.
yeah. I got, you know, and he called this investor like a bus wanker. Sorry, there we go. That was my. I
That's the
wasn't
first
even
swear word.
swearing
There we go.
myself. I was like
It
quoting like
still counts. It
certain
still
stuff.
counts.
Yeah.
So
So there
Zach,
was
I just have to ask, like, sorry to interrupt you, but it's
no
just
problem.
so, just to like, I guess sum it up for the audience, like what you've done, I think it's absolutely amazing because it's such a novel way of getting into I guess, getting the attention of these people. So I
Yeah.
guess like, just to sum it up, you got the information of the investors from Crunchbase and you probably looked at like other businesses that they invested in similar to
Yeah.
yours. I've heard that process before and then going to that platform, I can't remember the name,
Rocket Reach.
Rocket Reach,
Rocket
that,
Reach.
yeah,
Yeah.
to find information. Again, that's like nothing new. People
Yeah.
teach that all the time. And then go on Twitter to find the icebreaker. I've heard a few people do that before. It's a bit uncommon, that one. But then what you
It's a
did
bit
next,
stalkerish.
yeah,
Yeah.
what you did next is you went on Cameo, paid, I guess, influencers in whatever area, political, like football, whatever, to read a message to them.
Yeah.
That's the novel bit. That's the bit where I've
Yeah.
never
Yeah.
seen anyone else do, and that's amazing. I guess and then that acted as the icebreaker. But for you, given that, I guess, like, how much money did that help you raise? Like, how
Yeah.
impactful
Yeah.
was it? Because it sounds like a novel thing, and I just to paint the picture, did it actually work?
Yeah. So we've up until, so we're raising a round at the moment, which is probably going to be, it's going to end up close, just under 15 million. So that's kind of the current round that we're raising at the moment. Up until this date, we've raised about 6.5, £7 million. So it's really interesting. Like it's,
£6.5 million from Cameo, basically.
well, so that's through different means that you could probably
How much
attribute
of
some
it
of
was
it.
probably from Cameo, would you say?
You know what? I
Again,
don't.
you have to attribute it all to
No, I
Cameo.
don't.
That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying like the
No,
one that
there's
strategy.
I a good like the good percentage of the conversations came from there. What what it ended what I tell you what it was really useful for, which was I had some investor relationships which I'd been building up over a few years. So a handful of people that I'd got to know really well, and they're the ones that are heavily involved at the moment. What the interactions from Cameo did was it kind of one, it provided a channel to new investors who have come to the table, but it also gave me like leverage in the conversations
Mm,
and built a bit of hype and a little bit of FOMO. And that's something I'd never had before in like an investment round was, oh, there's a novel way here that someone's reached out. Maybe it's worth a look. And if he's done this to a lot of other people, then there's, if it's piqued my interest, then I
mm.
guarantee that who else he sent it to, it would have piqued their interest as well.
That's
So I think when
interesting.
we end up closing out this latest round, um, I don't think I think it's going to be like less than 10% is actually going to be Cameo related funds,
Mm,
but that I think like Cameo related, and the return on the investment there as well as Matt. So I think I spent like 3.5 grand on Cameo, um,
mm.
around 3.5 grand. So yeah, you kind of do some quick maths there, like 10% of 15-ish million. It's it's a pretty decent return on investment from a spend point of view.
Hang on, wait.
But
Let's do the math. So like you used 3.5 grand on Cameo, and then you
yeah,
got like how much for what was the ROI? Would you say?
well, waiting to sign. This is trying to not jinx anything. Waiting to get some term sheets boxed off, but it might be like, yeah, it might be like north of 500,000.
So 3.5K on Cameo, and then
Yeah, but
that's pretty crazy.
that's not including like the energy and the effort that went into it.
No, of course, of course, of course. But
Like
you'd have to do that anyway, like just as a
you
counter
would,
argument.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But I think that but that approach. So even though it might have not only directly correlated to a small part of the round and the financing, it's directly played a part in the overall structure of the deal, and that's because of I guess the whether you want to call it competitive tension or bringing other people to the table. Um, that's what kind of the biggest win was, I guess, from that approach. Was yeah, making, I don't know. I don't want to say like FOMO or anything because I don't actually believe that the stage we're at, there's a huge amount of FOMO going in. So we're at the stage now where we're getting EBITDA multiples, not revenue multiples. So it's like a different game to what we raised the first few £100,000 on was like, oh, you know, this is where we think our revenue is going to be, and this is the valuations and multiple. Like we're like a profitable growth stage business now, so our
Mm.
multiple is a profit. Our valuation is a multiple of our EBITDA. So it's a little bit different than kind of the earlier rounds we've done, but it the thing was it created this sense of like a round going on, and that was the biggest thing that because people saw that they were happening, and it was like, oh, someone so and so's replied to you, and it's like, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and oh, we're speaking to this guy in New York tonight because he got it as well. That's been the best part of it. Is like, yeah, using it to I
I
get
yeah, I mean
yeah.
it's I can't believe that. So 3.5K spend on Cameo has potentially led to like
Yeah, it
half a
could
million
be
funding.
could be more than that by the end of like next month. So we'll see, and I might be able to update you on the figures. But
That's crazy. That's crazy, Zach.
yeah,
That's amazing. What did you learn from the experience of actually doing it?
um, I think it's I found it like a really quite daunting experience reaching out to people you don't know, particularly investors and particularly people who you look up to and admire and think they're super successful and all that kind of stuff. So it's yeah, it's a real tricky one. Like um just thinking back, so I've completely lost my chain of thought.
Well,
It's
it's
just
just
like,
like for you it was like I guess breaking that ice, which is the most difficult
yeah, it
thing. Is
was,
like
yeah,
you send
yeah,
loads of emails to investors and probably like most of them don't even reply to you. So I
Oh,
guess like,
I've sent hundreds. I've sent
yeah.
hundreds of emails.
Would you
Yeah,
say your
yeah,
success rate of like them reaching back out to you, like replying to you, sorry, um, increased dramatically from you
yeah.
sending
So
out cameos?
from I think from the cameos, I originally worked out it was like 93%. I've since sent a couple more cameos I've not had response rates from, but it's like north of 85% response rate from sending them
That
out.
is crazy.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
crazy when you
yeah.
actually think of it, because I think like a typical one is maybe like 10%. That's if you're
Mm.
that's if you're lucky, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So um, that was the best thing about it was it gave me the confidence to have conversations and to
That's
yeah,
blowing my
you know,
mind, that one.
yeah, no, it was good. And I'm kind of talking to the like our sales teams at the moment to use it in that like environment as well with like clients that they want to reach out
Mm.
to and to get kind of give it a go. But yeah, it's I think honestly it's just finding a different way to get people's attention and that yeah I use Cameo. I got some celebs or whatever to read something out. I think it could be anything. Like you could try insert something else instead of Cameo videos to get people's attention. But yeah, there is something a little bit cringe about going, hey, I basically stalked you online, and here's a video of your favorite footballer. Like it's a little bit like when you send that, you feel a little bit
Yeah.
like, oh yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah.
guess so. I don't know, like 85% response rate is pretty strong,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
probably not.
That makes me feel a little bit better.
Yeah.
So
Do
yeah,
you before we wrap up the podcast, Zach? Do you recommend this? Are you going to do the strategy in the future? And also, do you recommend it for people listening because it's such a novel way of raising money?
yeah. I think the main thing is just standing out. I think the one thing I've learned is that sometimes you can't shortcut your way to making good relationships. And I think even though I was saying before, I didn't have a huge network, I did have some really good relationships with some of our early investors. And that's been quite a big part of my job over the years is building up those relationships. So you can't shortcut them. Like there's no way to shortcut them, which is a pain at the early days because you want instant traction. The thing with this approach is it allowed me to shortcut some elements of it. So it kind of showed, hey, I've got a bit of a personality and I'm willing to, invest some time into knowing why I should speak to you. And these are the reasons why I want to speak to you. So it allowed me to shortcut some of the elements. And I think it's as an approach. Would I recommend it? Sure. Would I try something else? Yeah, maybe. I just think in an ideal world, you build relationships over a few years with the investors that you want to work with. That's not always the reality. Therefore, creating some sort of interest or excitement or intrigue, and I did it via Cameo, is definitely, people should absolutely do that for sure.
That's fantastic. I guess like, what's the key thing they should look out for when doing it though? I know you said like obviously standing out, but I guess
Yeah.
is there any like key learning that you got from your experience
Yeah.
doing it, like that you can
Um,
pass on before we wrap up?
just make sure that, like, yes, you need to speak to a lot of people to find the investors that are right for you. But I think being super targeted in the types of funds you want to speak to, particularly from a VC world, and why you want to speak to them and tell them that's why. I think articulating that clearly in the email or whatever the introduction is absolutely key. Like, here,
Mm,
this is me, and this is why I want to speak to you, and this is why I think we should have a conversation.
mm.
Yeah,
Fantastic. I think that would work. I know you targeted VCs with that approach with the cameos, right? Like, but I think it
yeah.
would work extremely well for angels. I think it would probably work even
Yeah,
better for
definitely.
angels.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. I think that would be quite a big ego boost for some people as well to have a message that personalized. And I don't mean ego boost in a bad way either. I think it's kind of like these are people who are contacted and messaged day in, day out with people asking for their money. And I think if you just take a little bit of time to send something personalized, that goes a really long way in
for
those
sure.
initial conversations. Yeah.
For sure. Zach, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the podcast, and
No,
I've learned
thank you
so
so much.
much myself. So I hope that people listening have learned a lot too. I'm sure people want to like stay in touch, see what other like novel things that you're getting up to with raising money. And obviously like when the fund like closes, I think you'll obviously like do a post about it,
Yeah,
um,
yeah, yeah.
to talk about it. So how can people stay in touch with you and what you're doing?
Um, people can feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn, just Zac Williams. But if we go back to the beginning, probably, and I need the followers. If people want to follow me on TikTok, it's POV Zac W. People can find my daily musings of being an entrepreneur, business owner on there. So yeah,
It's good. That's how I found you. So
yeah,
recommended from me. Great. Thank you so much, Zach, for coming on the podcast.
yeah.
I'm sure we'll speak very soon. Thanks so much.
Really appreciate it. Cheers, man.